Okay, so in the last video we left off by writing our first line of code after giving our notebook a heading. And what I want to do here is just highlight a few items we have, a few things that are operating within the notebook. And we can see that the cell, the active cell, is highlighted in blue. We can't type anything in here. Well, now we can, now that's highlighted in green. And so that is the difference there. So when a cell is highlighted in green, you can type into a cell. When it's highlighted in blue, you cannot type into a cell. But you can perform other actions on a blue cell. So just as the cell is highlighted in blue, I can press the D key twice, and it will delete that cell. I'm going to do that again here. And now all we're left with is our heading cell. So there are a few ways to get more cells. So we can go up here and we can say insert cell below, or with an active cell indicated by the green there, we can press Shift Enter, and we can continue to do that, and it'll populate new cells. Or we can just click outside of this active space into this little white space there, and we've pressed the D key twice, and it deletes all of those extra cells. And I like to have one empty cell after I write. If you accidentally delete that, you can always insert below. If you want to insert above, you can also do that as well. Okay, so one last thing we want to do before we start coding here is we want to name our workbook. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to identify that workbook here in our Jupyter Notebook. So instead of just having untitled 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, we want to give it a nice title, Intro to Data Science. And we're going to look at the Numpy package. So Numpy is used to perform complex computations on an array. So an array is just a list of numbers, or it's just essentially a list. An array is a list. Python comes with built-in capabilities to perform complex calculations, but Numpy acts as like a jet fuel to do these type of things. Numpy increases their performance. And it's also kind of the building blocks for heavier duty packages such as pandas, which we're going to talk about in our next video. So to jump into arrays, first we have to import the package. And now the package, if we were just operating out of the Python shell that you would have downloaded, that you can download on python.org, we would have to go to numpy.org and download that package onto our computer. But because we downloaded Anaconda, we can just type in import numpy, and we always, instead of, every time you want to call this function here, instead of writing out the full numpy, it's common just to label it np, and you can reference that at any time just by writing a simple np. So we're going to activate that by hitting Shift Enter. Now we've imported the NumPy package and it's active within our workbook. Okay, so we are going to create an array, and we're just going to label this array X. And so what I'm doing here is labeling everything that comes after this equal sign is X. So this is going to be our variable. We're just going to name that variable X. And what we want to do is we want to call NumPy, and we want to call an array function. And we're just going to list, this is going to be our odd numbers list. 13, we'll do 43, 21, 23, and 99. And so it's important to note that the NumPy array has to come, the NumPy array is within that parentheses and then the square bracket. And now we can activate that. And what we can do, we can call that X at any time. We can call that variable at any time by saying print X, Shift Enter, and look, our array pops out right here. It's a nice array of odd numbers. Now we want to create an array with even numbers. We'll call that y. Y equals numpy array, and open bracket, and we'll just list off some even numbers there. Let's say 24, 34, do 106, get a 3-digit number in there. 0 can, NumPy can accept anything. We can put a name in there if we wanted to, but we want to keep ours to even and odd numbers just for simplicity's sake. And I can call that print function in that same cell. So we can do print y. And it's going to spit out an array of even numbers there. Now, let's say we're tracking some items in our x variable, and oh dang it, I forgot one value that I was supposed to track in my x variable. That's no problem at all. We can always add items to our NumPy arrays just by NumPy append. Just call NumPy append, and NumPy append takes 2 arguments. So NumPy append needs, even though we're creating a new array here, we're appending to an existing array, the NumPy append wants to know, what are we adding this to? We're adding this to our x variable, our x list. And what do we want to add? And then following, once you name the list, then the open bracket comes. And Jupyter Notebooks is really nice to work with. I mentioned this a number of times, how just easy and nice it is to work with. But once you type an open bracket, it automatically closes that bracket for you. Same with the parentheses. It's really intuitive, really nice, kind of helps you write your code as you go along. So we want to add a number to our odd number array. So let's add an odd number there. And thanks to Jupyter Notebook, it has closed our parentheses for us. And we're going to Shift Enter. And nothing happens because we haven't called our array yet. But what we're going to do, we want to make sure that 11 has appended itself to our original x array. So just come down here and print x, and look at that. Our number, our 11 that we appended in our last line, has now made its way into our odd numbers list. Now, let's say we wanted to combine these 2 lists. We can easily do that in NumPy by NumPy concatenate and NP concatenate, so the concatenate function. And we're going to name this full. So this is going to be a new variable we're going to call full. So that full list equals NumPy concatenate. How do you spell concatenate? C-O-N-C-A-T-E-N-A-T. So, and all we're going to do is we're going to call our 2 previous lists, so x, comma, y. And let's print that full list and see what it looks like. Now every item, so we asked to concatenate x, so our first list is x, ends with that 11, and then y, you see that there. But now they're all out of order, not that they were in order to begin with, but it would be nice if we can order them. So let's order these by np.sort. np.sort, let's say full is the name of the list. Shift Enter. Now look, now this array here has been sorted numerically, which is pretty nice. So pretty intuitive. You can read every line of code, you can understand it pretty easily as we go through. We created two arrays. We appended an item to an array. We've concatenated the two lists, and then we sorted the lists. Which, as you can kind of see, how kind of intuitive and just powerful and fast all these items are. I mean, think of just doing this in Excel. It would be a little bit more clunky and probably a little less intuitive. Now, as we kind of get beyond the basics here, and the next video we'll go into pandas and we'll deal with importing data from outside. But this gives us a nice little understanding of how to work with lists, how to work with Numpy, what Numpy is, and stay tuned for the next video.